It looks like we're live. I have been instructed to. My name is Anthony Reed. I'm one of the archivists at the Frederick Law Olmsted National Historic Site, and I'm here today to talk to you about what resources are available from the National Park Service at the Olmsted National Historic Site, and give a little brief about other research resources that are available to you from us. There are a couple of reminders. We're letting folks know that this will be recorded, and a link to the YouTube will be dropped in the chat afterwards. If you would please remain muted during the presentation. If you have a burning question, feel free to unmute yourself and jump on into the conversation. Happy to field those at whim, but if you're keep the sort of background noise of the dogs and the kids and the fire engines quiet. If you would stay muted during the presentation, that'd be great. And there was another, this meeting is being recorded, I believe, so feel free to check out the recording later, or I think you had an option to not opt in if you didn't want to be recorded. I will say there's one bit that I wanted to start with this, and it's a Park Service, becoming Park Service precedent, and it's a good one. As we discuss the past, the present, and the futures of shared land stewardship, we also begin efforts towards right relations. And we want to acknowledge that at the Olmsted National Historic Site, our Boston Brookline region is the traditional and unceded territory of the Massachusetts people, also long stewarded by the Wampanoag and the Nipmuc people. We try to honor and learn from their living wisdom. So I think what I'll do today, again, a little background. My name is Anthony Reed, archivist with Frederick Law Olmsted National Historic Site, also known as Fairstead in Brookline, just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Y'all probably know this already, but I'll just for the record. And we maintain the historic collections of the Olmsted firm, Frederick Law Olmsted Senior, Olmsted Elliott, Olmsted Brothers Landscape Architects, Olmsted Associates, and then the Park Service historic record that we've created since acquiring the site in 1979, 1980. We do a fair trade with the researchers. A lot of you probably already know this already. You've used our research resources, and we're thrilled about that. And as we have developed into the 21st century, there's a lot more of the digitization, where some of you may have been familiar with coming to the site and looking at the historic record. We are now obviously in a much larger, even pre-COVID, and a much larger distant digital reference research process. And that's what we're going to be looking at a little bit today. So I'm going to get started with sharing my screen. And this, I wanted to start with sort of the basics of the Frederick Law Olmsted National Historic Site website. Has a lot of information for visitors when we're actually open, which is not a whole lot right now. But the page that I wanted to focus on for this presentation is the archives collection page. This, and I'll have the links that I'm working with now today. I'll drop into the chat at the end of the day, at the end of the session, in about half an hour. So you'll have access to all these resources as live links as I sort of run through them. So don't feel like you need to write down all the URLs for the pages we're looking at right now. The important part of this page that we're looking at is that it does list out the important research collections held at the Olmsted National Historic Site, and with links to how best to access those materials. Researchers typically want to see, if they're looking at the historic landscapes that were done by the firm, advised by the firm, consulted by the firm, are typically looking at the plans and drawings collection, about 139,000 oversized documents of landscape architecture plans and drawings. The photo album collection that the firm documented their work in sort of before, during, and after work. So the photography from late 1800s to the 1979, 1980 era. Planting lists that the firm used as very specific outlines of what goes into the ground based on planting plans and other work that was done. Lithographs, not so much. And then the correspondence that is held at the Olmsted National Historic Site. The correspondence for all the projects was divided, and you'll hear more about the Library of Congress materials, but thinking about it as one long series of correspondence from roughly 1885 to 1979. The Library of Congress maintains the correspondence of the 1885 circa to 1949, 1950. At the site, at the Olmsted site, we maintain the correspondence records in 1950 and onward. So there's kind of a split, as the firm donated the earlier correspondence to the Library of Congress. We maintain the later correspondence records, and we'll look a little bit about what's at the Library of Congress very briefly, because I think the next presentation, that was what I was supposed to tell you. I'm only one in a series of research research orientations that NAOP, the National Association for Olmsted Parks, the other part that I forgot. Thanks to Dee Dee for letting me have this time with y'all. And there'll be another session for the Library of Congress materials, I believe, check the NAOP website for that. But this is just one part of a longer series of reference research orientations. So the Library of Congress material holds primarily the correspondence, the earlier correspondence of the firm. So if one is wanting to look at the whole picture of the work that the firm did on a particular project, they're going to want to look at the photo albums, the plans and drawings, the planting lists if they exist, and the correspondence, because that really is the narrative of all the graphic material telling why a project maybe didn't proceed or what all the specs were. So that correspondence piece is really pretty important information for if you're researching the history of a particular project. I'm checking the chat real quick. All right. Fantastic. So these are all great records. This is all great material. It's super sexy. There's a lot of it. How do I find good stuff? We looked at in the previous sessions, we looked at the Olmsted Research Guide Online. It was looked at as, it's to our mind, it is the comprehensive catalog of what is at the Olmsted National Historic Site, as well as what is at the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress has some fantastic finding aids to how to navigate their collections. During that partnership of this cataloging for the Olmsted Research Guide Online effort, we ORGO cataloged that material as well, both the project files. So even the Library of Congress correspondence is broken up into two pieces. The majority is two pieces. Letter books, 1885 to 1899, roughly, and then project files from 1900 to 1950, roughly. The letter books are harder to get to because they are chronologically ordered. So within one letter book for a year, it's just January through December. There's no real project ordering done to it. That second series, project files, are in job number order. So it's a lot easier to find that material. If you're looking for job number 9050, it's going to be somewhere between 9049 and 9051. So that's pretty easy in the project folder correspondence, the later material at the Library of Congress. The earlier is a little tougher to find because it is just chronological. ORGO is beneficial to that. I have a couple of records up for these. The Library of Congress, the later material, the Series B, the correspondence files, again, it's fairly clear. That's going to be job number 1420. It's in the 1400s. You just scroll down, and you're able to find that material fairly easily. Earlier material, 1885 to 1899, are in these letter books, the Series A. When we catalog that material, we catalog them, which was unusual for archives. We catalog them at the item level so that every letter got a catalog record. And so there's thousands of these. And we were able to attach job numbers to most of them, which was sort of a retroactive work because during that time period, job numbers hadn't been assigned. The Olmsted brothers really implemented this job numbering system so that we were able to sort of retroactively apply these job numbers to a lot of the Olmsted senior work, the earlier Olmsted brothers work. So this aspect of cataloging these individual letters that are in chronological order by job number and then being able to find those, that is sort of the benefit of this. And with this data, you know where it is, the Library of Congress, the Series A, or the letter books, specific down to the volume number and the actual page number. Those materials were microfilmed and those are also digitized. So when you hear about the Library of Congress material later, this will make much more sense. But in the ORGO database, all of that material was cataloged into this database at that item level. So being able to find, these individual items is really helpful so that you don't have to go through all of the entire 1898 letter book looking for these one individual letters. You'll be able to find them through the ORGO website and find the very specific item you're looking for. So that was just the one clarification I wanted to make on an otherwise great presentation on our research tool, ORGO. It's been It's been in existence probably about 20 years. It needs an update of the data. We haven't done that in a bit. And it also needs, there's possibly on the horizon, including our digital images into this database. We're working on that. The Park Service is wrestling with an actual database change that back ends this. So there's a little bit of work to be done on this, both freshening up the data, freshening up the look, and also adding some more functionality. So keep an eye on this in the coming year as Olmsted 200 wanders through. We're looking to make some big changes onto the ORGO product as we know it. So this as the fundamental comprehensive catalog database for the material at Olmsted National Historic Site and the Library of Congress is the text only. Everything you're going to want, mostly everything you're ever going to want from the Olmsted collections are in this database, only in text format. When you want the digital stuff, that's when you have to go to a separate website. So this is the kind of pain in the butt. You have to go to a whole other, we maintain a Flickr page, which is the link up here. And right now we have about 193,000 images in the Flickr data set. And that is the entire photo album collection. Those have all been scanned, those have all been digitized, and those are available on Flickr. Keyword, they're searchable up here in the search window. And if you're at the Flickr photo stream and you want to find just material in our collection, otherwise you're doing keyword search all across Flickr, and there's some crazy stuff in Flickr that you're not going to want to see for your research, maybe for other stuff. But to find stuff in our collection, there's a little magnifying glass right here. So that'll search just our material. So that's a good hint for you. If you're just doing keyword search up there, you'll look through entire Flickr, and that's not what you want. Look specifically for just materials in our collections. So getting back to this, the entire photo albums are done. We are probably, of our 139,000 oversized landscape architecture plans and drawings collection, we are probably, I want to say 3/4 of the way scanning comprehensively through that entire collection. It is, it's a daunting job. We're doing our best to get as much done as we can. There's a lot of data management. There's a lot of management of the digital files. There's a lot of attaching the metadata for those plans. What we saw over here in the ORGO database, having this material actually on the images for the plans, a lot of that work is being done on the back end that y'all will never see, but that we want that information attached to the actual digital file is really important for the provenance of the document. So this is our Flickr page. And again, it has 193,000 images in there. And we're just pushing as much of these plans as we can up. I think today there's about 1,000 going up from a big scanning job that was just finished recently. So again, sort of like with the ORGO, it's a lot of stuff. You can do the keyword searching and hope to find the right ones, and it'll pull up the information, the items you're looking for. But at some point, you're going to want a little more organized. So looking at Flickr, there's two ways to do this. The photo stream is just the whole enchilada. It's got everything in there. Otherwise, we also organize the collection according to projects. And this is a whole lot of management also because they don't automatically sort. So there's a whole lot of trying to manipulate these into the right order. What it does do, though, is sort of creates this portfolio for every individual job that orders it correctly. So, well, mostly correctly, but it keeps it in a sort of one-stop shop. And as we look at other collections, the correspondence areas, the lithographs, these might develop, but right now it just has the plans and drawings and then the photo album collection. So this collections page is in numerical order by job number, starting with job number 1, which is the old man himself, scrolling all the way down. So the problem with this page is it's got a lot of data. It's a huge page going all the way down to the 12,000 jobs. So while this is a long page and it could take a while for it to load, and sometimes it even doesn't load depending on traffic and depending on your bandwidth, it is a great, again, a sort of one-stop shop. From this page, you can either look numerically through it. If you're looking for job number 9049, you kind of keep scrolling through. The other option is just to do a Control F, search the page, 499 or something like that. And there we have a couple of different 046s. So this page is keyword searchable. And if you want to find your particular job number, that's a good way to find it without having to sort of scroll through page after page after page after page. So this will be another one of the links that will kind of keep in your bookmarks, as if you want to either browse through the jobs, or if you're looking for a very specific job, you can do that through this page. Once you have this page, if you wanted to say, look at Nassau County Courthouse, what you get is the information about the project itself, job number 9617, where it's located, how many plans are in there, and then you have these two collections within this collection. One is the plans and one is the photo albums. So again, if you click on the link to the plans, it'll bring up the list of the Nassau County Courthouse, Garden City, New York, and then the plans that are associated that are so far scanned. There's only 10 photos, but we also know that there's 16 plans. Oh, this might be a complete one. But as work is being done, these are being, so it's a work in progress. This is definitely not complete. And this is the dilemma for ORGO, which is complete and comprehensive. That is the stop when you're doing research, to look there. That is the place to start with your research. Flickr is where you want to go if you know there's a particular plan you're looking for, or if you know that this is not complete, not yet. We're getting there. Soon it will be. But Flickr is just the access point for work as it's being done. So this is a good spot to say, boy, that's the one I'm looking for. And if the plan you're looking for is not already scanned, you can contact our reference staff, and we'll sort of move the items you're looking for up the queue and get those done more quickly onto Flickr, so that you can look at them, and so that other researchers who are also looking for this item can find them. So it's again a bit of a work in progress, and our researchers who are asking for materials help us determine what gets digitized and pushed up to the Flickr page. Again, there's other internal work that's being done with the Park Service to generate a better user access for all of their digital materials. Flickr, I say with love and respect, is not exactly a professional academic research tool. It's Flickr. It's where my mom puts her travel photos and where I put my experimental art and things like that. So it's not, it's what we have, and that's why we love it. And researchers have gone bananas for this. We are getting a couple 100,000 hits on our Flickr page a month. So it's a fairly robustly used tool. And you can download images. Taking a look at one particular plan, you can zoom in. The resolution is quite good. We scan typically to a 400 dpi TIFF, and then dumb that down to JPEG for our Flickr pages. And then all the metadata for that plan, again, is here, the specific individual data for the plan. And then also ways to download. If you want an original or different sizes, this is where you'd be able to do that. So that's broadly, very quickly, our Flickr page. And again, as things are being loaded, and then looking too at the photo albums is a similar process. We've scanned all the photo album pages, and then also the individual images within the page also for higher resolution and better clarity. So we have context of every individual page, but also higher definition images of the photos themselves. So that is so that's Flickr in a sprint. In the last 10 minutes, I want to take a look at the GIS program that we have put together and have been maintaining for a couple of years now. That is, as we've collected data and are still collecting data and making corrections to our data, and it's sort of a live, similar to the OlmstedOnline product. The way I think of it is a little different in that I think the OlmstedOnline product is a really great product to document the projects and the landscapes and their current status and their congressional district, all of that data, and that is more evaluative, that we as the Park Service cannot be touching, about things like whether it's still Olmstedian, or whether it's true to the design, or whether it's, and also edited by the public, which we are not comfortable. We are librarians, and what we have up is sort of what's on the document. So whereas I think there's more user crowd-funded data and added content, which is great for OlmstedOnline, we look at the materials we have as sort of pure, as much as we can, just the objective, what's on the document, what's in front of us. So what we've done a little differently is just that there's not a whole, I think it's a simpler and less complex interface. There's not as much data here, but what we do have is fairly thoroughly researched and again, not comprehensive because there's a lot of work going into this still as we are doing more research about where these particular projects might be. So let's take a little dive into this. And I'll say the link I'll provide to a different session that I did in the summertime when it was hot and sweaty, so don't judge me on that. A deeper dive into this GIS Olmsted firmware. Take a look at that video. It's a little longer. I think I spent 20 minutes on this specifically, so it's worth, if you can stand that, there's a little more data in there. But as we look at this, we see, again, it's a map of the United States. And if we start zooming into, say, Long Island, New York area, we start seeing these dots populate. It's very similar to the OlmstedOnline. Again, the content is a little simpler. It is just the project information with a link to the Flickr page for any particular project. There's not, again, there's not a whole lot of added content to this. If there is, I think at some point I'd like to think about including the Library of Congress information as OlmstedOnline has done. But for us, this is a data set of what we manage and what we control. And that control is fairly important to us in that we want to make sure that it's as sort of pristine as possible and as true to the actual documents, and less about the sort of crowdsourced information. So as we look at this, we do see, you can kind of view the hot spots. You can see where a lot of work was done as we move through Connecticut into the Boston area. It's really great, all these. And the different colors also map to the different project types. So you're able to filter out through these tools on the left. If you just wanted to see the private estates, you can toggle that in, and you just see the light purple private estates. If you just wanted to see the grounds and public buildings, so there's a little bit of play you can do in that. You can also filter just for city and counties if you're interested in one particular area, and then also by state. So there's a couple different ways graphically to play with the filtering on this side. If you're looking specifically for, you don't need to zoom in or try to think about where is Hamilton, Mass. I've heard of it. You can just type it in and it'll auto-populate into there. The other part that is worth looking at is, so that's sort of the graphical interest, the graphic interaction. Looking at it tabularly, textually, you can pull up, I'll do this again because you might not have seen that. There's a small tab arrow down at the bottom of the screen here that you click, and that'll pull up the tabular data. And on the one hand, you can just filter by what's in the map there. If you zoom way in, you'll see this data start changing down below to where it's just reflecting what's in the view of your screen. So there are ways to look at what's within a particular neighborhood. If you're looking for just geographically based, you're able to do that. The other ways you can play with this data is by looking at options, and you can filter. And you have a couple different options here also to filter by project name, job number, again, locations, the longitude, latitude, if you happen to know that. So there are a couple of ways to really dig deep into this data to mine carefully show up what is in this tabular data. You're able to play with some of the filtering out through the options there. That gives you a chance to really look through, if you're diving deep into this research, you're able to look at it geographically by focusing in on the map and the extent of the screen of, if you really, really focus in, you just see the one project. Pulling out a little further, you can see that the data, tabular data, starts to change a little bit. So it's a sort of multiple ways to get at the same data. And again, looking at each individual allows for the project information and then a link to the Flickr page, which goes back to the same Flickr information we're looking at, but it goes directly to the project you're looking for instead of having to go through a little more of the Flickr page. So again, there's a couple different ways to get through information here. There is much less information than on OlmstedOnline, but it does provide a little more sort of clarity, shortness, A to B to C of what the historic record of the Olmsted National Historic Site is. One other bit that I'll offer is, so feel free to play with the website as you go to it. One last bit is this information button gives more information about the project itself. there is a link here. We have kept a fairly extensive document, a PDF of the research notes that have fed into the data for this project. It's a big document, takes a while to open, so I'm not going to try and open it here. But I do have it open on this side, where we do have information about the project itself. Again, keyword searchable, so you're not having to try and page through literally 1,500 pages of text. But any notes that we've come across in a particular project trying to find it, we have kept documentation to say this is why we feel this is the best location for this particular private estate, or here's a historic reference. The Historic MapWorks has been a great resource for this. They're a great collection of maps. Any media, any other secondary sources, primary sources, and even some satellite imagery for this property in Roslyn, New York, in Long Island. Over here, we see the historic photograph within the collection of the Olmsted National Historic Site. And this is a satellite image of the same property where you can see this over here. You can see this, the bones of the property is still there. It's still recognizable. So there's some great tools to be able to track down. The private estates have been the hardest to track down. Obviously, the city planning is easy, the big parks, super easy. Private estates is really the challenge, and the individual cemetery plots, that's been hard to get to also. But we're doing our best. We're finding a lot of those through, again, other records outside of our collections, and doing the research to maintain this document. This document is a little old. I think this is a 2016 version that's live from the site. So I need to upload a more recent version of this, but it does have a lot of really good information for materials that still have yet to be found. There have been sort of breadcrumbs that are around, but we didn't want to lose the information as a whole. So there's a lot of research still to be done, but that's sort of what this document is for, is to give ourselves that historic, where did we find this? Why did we justify this? How do we think that's come to be? So that is our sprint through these materials. And I think that is what I have. I think I'm going to stop sharing screen and check the chat to see if there's anything I can get out of this. There we are. Stop sharing. There we are. In the chat. In the meantime, I will post the links. Okay. Holy moly, there's a lot of talk. Can you help people understand how search for an individual plan by project and plan number rather than have to go through? Arlene, hi. Requests or drawing scanner column order? No. So to the first question, finding plans is rather difficult because in Flickr, because it has to be a fairly specific number. So the job number, the plan number, sheet number, all of that is a very specific. Going through ORGO is probably your best bet to get that specific plan number, and then typing that into, as I showed you with the little magnifying glass on Flickr on the main photo stream page, will get you as close as possible if it's scanned. Again, it's tough to say if it's not scanned. So there's a bit of a catch-22 there. Searching just on job number will also get you everything, including the photo album. So that's another way to find it. There's a question beyond priority requests or initially, and then a different person is scanning comprehensively, starting at the first drawer and just moving our way through the catalog. So it's through the cabinets, through the physical storage of them. So there's really not a chronological, because that's not how we've ordered them. So no, the assumption that all the 19th century drawings have been scanned is not true. There's a priority request to the researchers, and then just sort of what's in the next drawer that we got to do. So so there's no real order to it, except in as much as the so we're doing 1970 stuff, we're doing 1930 stuff, we're doing 1890 within whatever comes out of the drawer next. Physically, why Flickr versus other storage media? Is Flickr backed up? So great question, Dr. Clark. Flickr is not our storage. We have secure storage backup on our network at the site. We exchange hard drives to a distant location. We're talking about doing it to a third location. So Flickr is merely our access point. So it is not our storage. Park Service is very clear about, well, not very clear. Digital assets are a tough nut to crack with the Park Service. We're working on it, but Flickr is definitely not our storage solution. It cannot be, it will not be, there's no way it can be. Okay. Oh dear. Let me try that again. Everyone. Sorry, I just, Arlene, you got all my links somehow instead of everybody? That went to everyone, I hope. So that, I believe, covers, that is 3:31, 1 minute over. My name is Anthony Reed again at the Olmsted National Historic Site. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions, either through the webpage. I'm the person at the ORGO questions, so feel free to email me through the frequently asked questions page. And beyond that, I enjoyed the time, and I thank Dee Dee and NAOP for allowing me to talk to y'all. And if you have any questions, I don't see anything else in the chat. This has been a great time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you all about your research. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yep.